Hey everybody, how's it going? Like Butter here, and today I wanted to bring you a Division video to talk about the most recent nerf to the G36. Some people wanted me to make a video talking about my opinions on it, whether I felt like the nerf was necessary, and kind of give you the little rundown of what is going on. So for those of you guys who don't know, the G36 came out with 1.3 and the Underground DLC. And the G36 is by far the best assault rifle in the game. It's got decent handling. It's not like super crazy when you shoot it with a high fire rate like something like the Lova. It's actually really steady, and you can put fire rate on it, get a little bit of stability and accuracy, and you can shoot the thing like a laser beam. That thing is absolutely ridiculous. It does good damage. Very good with builds such as like Predator's Mark, and even the Firecrest blind build that I was doing. It worked extremely well. And they stated from the beginning when 1.3 hit that the G36 did have higher base damage than they wanted, and that it couldn't be fixed in time for the update. But they, instead of like delaying the entire DLC over one weapon, especially because assault rifles aren't super great in PvP anyways, they decided to just release it. And I think a lot of this has to do with them trying to test out things. I think this was was kind of planned. I'm not sure if it was, but I think they wanted to put in a really good assault rifle and see if people would use it, or if people were just kind of wanting to use SMGs just to use SMGs. And I think the G36 proved to a lot of people that it feels good to use an assault rifle in this game. The Division, it feels good to use a weapon that you kind of need to aim down sights for, like the my MP7. And when I used to use like an MP5 and an AUG, you never really have to aim it, especially on PC. You kind of just run around and hip fire, and you never had the feeling of needing to aim your gun. Well, the G36, you kind of had to shoulder it for it to shoot pretty accurate. It didn't do much damage when hip firing. So it kind of like did feel good to have an assault rifle do a lot of damage. And I think that's why so many people are upset with the nerf, because I think there's a lot of people out there that want to use assault rifles but just can't because they're not viable for PvP. And the problem with assault rifles is that when they were balancing them, they considered the optimal range, which is good, right? The optimal range is the amount of distance that your gun keeps its damage. And don't get me wrong, like, it's awesome to have that optimal range on an assault rifle. But the problem is that most of the gunfights in this game happen at such a short distance in PvP. Obviously, like, assault rifles are viable in PvE now with the armor damage, but myself included with a lot of other people feel like that it's not viable in PvP, and for the first time, an assault rifle actually felt viable for PvP with the G36, and I think a lot of people were kind of holding on to that, and it just felt good, And that's why I understand why people everyone hates nerfs, right? Like, I have a brutal deadly focused G36 with 22% enemy armor damage, and like you see I'm using it here, and it shreds, dude. It absolutely shreds. I tried it today. I actually got a Predator's Mark build put together today right before the patch, and I was absolutely annihilating people. I think on players, I was making them bleed for around 9k to 10k per tick, which is, I don't think you guys understand how much damage it is to bleed 10 to it might even been more than that, anywhere between 10 to 15k per tick, and it's usually like five ticks. So I was bleeding out I was making them go from half health all the way down, just bleeding out. It was insane. So I do want to experiment with the Predator's Mark build further, because I think Predator's Mark right now in the Dark Zone is extremely strong, especially with the G36 being as strong as it is. But I seriously think that the nerf is necessary, because if this gun stays the way that it is, and I know a lot of people want it to stay the way it is, I think that if they ever had plans of putting in some sort of armor damage against players, which they did talk about, I was talking to one of the devs on Twitter, and they said that there is plans in the future for weapons to have enemy armor damage to players. So the stats that you see on the assault rifle, now I don't know if they're going to do only assault rifles or if they're going to do all weapons, but they said there's going to be some major overhauls to PvP coming up. They said it earlier on State of the Game. They were talking about dealing with tancticians and sticky builds and you know, the TTK, and I think that there's a lot of good things coming up for the division. I know it's frustrating when we get news about nerfs, but the gun had to be nerfed. It was way too strong. You know, 13.6k base damage on an assault rifle that has decent stability and decent fire rate is just unheard of. I mean, like the AK, for example, shoots slow as hell, and you know, it's one of the strongest weapons in the game, and even those AKs usually only have anywhere between 12 and 13,000 base damage. So the base damage, if you guys didn't know, got nerfed by 15%, which is a considerable amount, considering like the AUG and the Vector got nerfed 10%. I honestly don't think that the AUG and the Vector should have gotten nerfed that much. I think it should have been closer to like 5 to 7%. Obviously they would still be strong, but they, like, you don't see anyone using the Vector or the AUG anymore because they absolutely nerfed it in the ground. Now, how will the G36 hold up? A lot of people are like, oh, so it's basically useless now. Now, I don't think it is useless. I think it's still one of the better assault rifles, if not the best assault rifle still in the game. But just to give you guys an idea of what 15% is, my build, my base damage on my G36 is going to go down from 13.6 down to 11.2. So yeah, that is kind of a lot. I don't know, actually I think it's only going down to 11.6 because I think it's 2.04. I ended up doing the math, so it's dropping essentially probably around 2k regardless of what it is. What you can do, which is pretty easy, you just multiply your base damage by 0.15, and then you basically just subtract that from what your base damage was originally, and then you'll figure out what your base damage is going down to. But yeah, it's definitely gonna hurt for the people who use the G36 in PvP. But like I said, for the people who only use it for PvE like myself, it probably won't change much. You'll realize that you have to shoot people a little bit longer. That's actually something that they talked about in State of the Game today. They said that they want to fix that, you know, how NPCs just feel way too tanky. I think everyone can agree they're just so tanky. They do so much damage. I think that it's good that they are like this, but I you know, alongside with a lot of others, believe that they could make it more difficult in different ways rather than just giving them 1 million health. It's way more than 1 million, by the way. It's like 15 million health. I think they could do it in different ways by maybe having like I don't know, like make them more aggressive or harder to deal with. Just, I don't know, man. It seems kind of offsetting when you have these NPCs that are impossible to kill. And I think that's another reason why people just absolutely love the G36, because you could just shred through these overly tanky NPCs. So that's something that they're looking at and that they're working on fixing in the future. I think sticky bombs are going to get a small nerf. I'm not sure if they're going to nerf damage wise, or I think my suggestion was pretty good about the sticky bombs. Now, I think that the sticky bombs should kind of have a radius where there's like an inner circle, which is extremely small, that will do the full amount of damage. And I think there should be like an outer circle that does maybe like half that damage. So basically, the closer you are to the actual sticky bomb, the more damage it'll do. So that way it'll kind of reward people who hit precise sticky bombs rather than people that kind of just shoot it. Like, just I can't tell you how many times we've ran into players that just kind of shoot it at their own feet, and just if they just barely nick you with the radius, you take the full amount of damage, and I think that needs to be changed. But dude, there's so many cool things coming up for the division. I'm so excited. I wouldn't worry about this G36 nerf too bad, guys. Like, it's gonna be okay. The gun's still gonna be viable with the Predator's Mark build. I'm actually working on a Predator's Mark build that I'm gonna be putting together very, very soon for you guys. So I will be posting a video of that probably within the next week. I'm gonna grind Clear Sky this week and get as many good pieces as I can, and kind of see if there's a build that can fit for you guys that like the assault rifle, so that you can use the G36 in PvP and still have it be viable without the, thousands upon thousands of damage that you can do. I think there's other ways that you can build it where you can kind of bring a lot to your team and be able to slow people down. The bleed effect is so frustrating, and yeah, you can get rid of it with your first aid, and you can do other things to get rid of the bleed. But when you're constantly putting out damage and constantly just making your opponents bleed, even though you may not be doing the most damage, if you have someone in your group that's running like a DPS build, they'll probably be doing most of the damage. But to be able to apply that bleed constantly and not allow them to run, it's that little bit of crowd control that brings so much to your team. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I think it's going to be really strong. So I just wanted to give you guys my opinions. I think the G36 nerf was necessary. Now, if it were me, would I have nerfed it 15%? 15% is kind of a lot. Maybe like 10, but I think, like I said, a lot of times when things kind of don't make sense in the future, when other features come out, those things start to make sense. And I think assault rifles are going to get enemy armor damage or armor penetration in PvP, and I think that's one of the reasons why the G36 had to be nerfed, or else no one would use anything else. So for those of you guys out there who like to experiment with different guns, the black market AK, the Lova, the P416, all those other assault rifles out there that are actually going to be viable again because they can somewhat put out the amount of damage that the Lova, that the G36 is going to as well. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to drop the video a like. Let me know if you have any suggestions for future videos. Like I said, I'll try to get that Predator's Mark build as soon as possible. I still need to get better Firecrest gloves for my DPS build. But I'm going to be experimenting with a lot more things now, and I definitely want to try that. I want to try Alpha Bridge. The blind rifle, we're probably going to get more information when the blind battle rifle comes out, so that's something I want to try out too. And yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care, everybody.